Well, hey everybody, Mr. Reeves back with you for our third and final video on lesson 8.2, percents, fractions, and decimals. And in this video, we are simply going to work through some of the problems from the practice exercises. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually skip over here to number 7 where it says to write each percent, as a fraction and a decimal. All right, so just a reminder that a percent is over 100, right? So something we all know by now, that 72% is going to be 72 over 100, right? All right, now as a decimal, that is going to go two places. 72 hundredths is written as 0.72. Now it does not say a simplified fraction. Just a reminder, if it did say to write it as a simplified fraction, we would have to divide both of those by a number that went into both of them. And we could divide both of those by 4, and we would get 18 over 25. All right, so I just do want to remind you that there might be times where they want you to write it as a simplified fraction. However, the instructions do not say you have to simplify it, so we're going to go ahead and make 72%, which was our percent, equivalent to 72 over 100, which was our fraction, is equal to 0.72 or 72 hundredths as our decimal. All right. Okay, 25% successes is going to be, whoops, let me switch back to blue here. That's going to be 25 100ths, right? 25 over 100, which as a decimal is 0.25. And of course, we should know that 25% is 1/4. I do want to bring your attention to what I posted with this assignment. This is that number line I referred to in the first video. The benchmark ones, the green ones, are the ones you should have memorized, right? 1/5 is 20%, 1/4, 25%, and so on. So having this with you while you work through this set of problems would be a great thing to have, and I may be referring back to this in the future. We will see. But 25%, if we were to simplify it, would be 1/4. Again, they are not requiring you to simplify it, but that again is one that you should have memorized. Hey, 25%, I know that is 1/4, okay? Let's do one where we actually have a number that is bigger than 100. 500% would be 500 over 100, right? 500 over 100 would be 500%. Now, what would that be as a decimal? All right, well, that would be 500 over 100. That's going to be, if we divide both of those by 100, we just get 5 over 1, right? So 5.0. 500 over 100. If you wanted to think of it as 100 over 100, right? 5 times? Well, 100 over 100 would be 1.0, and 1.0 times 5 gives me 5. All right? So when you have a value bigger than 100, then that number is going to go in front of the decimal. So for example, 165%, 165 over 100. In this case, that would be 100 over 100, right? Plus 65 over 100. And we're going to get 1.65 when we have our decimal. So this is our percent. This is our fraction. We simply put that number over 100. All right? And any part that's over 100 is going to go in front of the decimal, right? Here we had 100 over 100 5 times, so it was all in front of the decimal. All right, here we have 165. So 100 over 100 plus 65 over 100. All right, so that's going from a percent to a fraction and a decimal. Write it over 100 and then convert it to a decimal. All right, what about going from a fraction to a decimal and a percent? All right, what do we want the denominator to be? We want the denominator to be 100. Want a denominator of 100, right? Actually, I'm going to change want. I'm going to change this to a verb. Convert the denominator. Oh my goodness, Mr. Reeves. We're going to convert the denominator to 100. Or the other way to do it is divide the numerator by the denominator. And again, in our previous video, we did that to show how that works. So I have 5/8, I have 258 over 300, and I have 350 over 100. Well, I'm going to start with this one because this already is over 100, right? So since it's over 100, that's going to be 350%, right? 350%, and 350% would be 100 over 100, right? Plus 100 over 100 plus 100 over 100 plus 50 over 100. Do you agree with that? Right? And that part right there, each of those represents 1, so that's 3, and then 50 over 100. So what do we get? We get 3.50. 3.50. All right, and if you're going, well, could I have moved the decimal places 2 places to the left? Yes, you can do that. So to convert from a percent to a decimal, you can move the decimal places 2 places to the left. Remember, this is 3 100ths plus 50 100ths. Anything greater than that 100 over there is going to go in front of the decimal. So 250 over 100, that would have been 2.5, right? 150 over 100, that would be 1.5. So whatever's greater than 100, that number goes in front of the decimal, and the part that is less than 100, that goes after the decimal. And by the way, the zeros afterwards are optional. All right, so this one is 258 over 300. Now this time the denominator is not 100, it is 300. So what I could try to do is divide both of those by 3, right? And if I do that, then that denominator that I'm going to have here is going to be 100, right? So then I'm going to do 258 divided by 3. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take my calculator, 258, and I'm going to divide by 3. And when I do that, I get 86. All right, so I took that denominator and I converted it to 100 by dividing by 3. So what's that going to be? That's going to be 86%, right? Or 0.86. All right? So, and then finally here, this one, 8 does not go evenly into 100. So the method you can do, if you're not going to make that denominator into 100, you can simply divide the numerator by the denominator. 5 divided by 8 is equal to 0.625. 0.625, right? 0.625. And again, that would be 625 over 1,000. We want that denominator to be what? We want it to be 100 if we're going to write it as a percent. All right, so if we divide each of those by 10, we would get 62.5 over 100. So this is 62.5%. Or remember, if you have the decimal, you can move it 2 places to the right to change it to a percent. 62.5%. because 5/8 would be 62.5 over 100. All right. Okay, well, I hope that helps with those problems. Let me minimize this. It does not want to minimize. All right, let's go back now to the previous page and look at some other problems that we have. All right, Helen spends 12% of her budget on transportation expenses. Write it as a fraction and as a decimal. Again, 12% would be 12 over 100. As a fraction, which again we could simplify, that would be 6 over 50. And as a decimal, that would be 0.12. All right, model the decimal. Well, 0.53 would be 53 over 100, right? So we would color in 53 of these, and then as a percent, that would be 53%. All right, 1.07, right? Well, that would be the same as 107 over 100. 107 over 100, or 107%, right? Anytime it's bigger than 1, you're going to have more than 100%. And again, if I was coloring this in, I would color the whole thing here, and then I would color 7 there. All right? All right, write each fraction as a decimal and as a percent. So again, 7 over 20, we want the denominator to be what? We want the denominator to be 100, right? So what do? We can multiply by 5, and 7 times 5 is 35. So 7/20 is equivalent to 35 over 100, so that would be 35%, or 0.35. Again, 8's not going to go into 100 evenly, so I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do 3 divided by 8, because you can change any decimal into a fraction by dividing the numerator by the denominator. And I get 0.375, which again, that's 375 over 1,000. But what do we want? We want it to be over 100. So if we divide by 10, we get 37.5, right? Or you can simply, like I said, when you're converting from a decimal to a percent, you can move the decimal 2 places to the right. If it's 375 over 1,000, it's going to be 37.5 over 100, because we're dividing by 10. All right, couple more problems, and then we are going to be done. All right, it says at Brian's bookstore, 0.3 of the shelves hold mysteries, 25% hold travel books, and 7/20 hold children's books. Which type of book covers the most space? Well, we want to change them to the same form. So we have 0.3, which is a decimal. We have 25%, which is a percent. And we have 7/20, which is a fraction. So if we want to compare them, we want them all to be in the same form instead of 3 different forms, all right? Well, let's change them to percents, all right? So 0.3 is the same, I hope you agree, as 0.30, right? Which would be 30 over 100, and 30 over 100 is 30%, all right? So I took 0.3, I put the 0 on the end. By the way, if you just wanted to leave it, you could say 0.3 would be 3/10, right? And 3/10, if you change to a denominator of 100, you would multiply by 10 and you get 30 over 100. But if you just put the 0 on the end, you could quickly see it's 30 over 100. So 30% of the books are mysteries. So I'm just going to put M here for mysteries. All right. Travel books, this is TB. Travel books are already 25%. Okay, 7/20, we want that to be a percent. So we need that denominator to be 100, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply by 5. And what do I get? I get 35 100ths, which is 35%. All right, and that's children's books. So children's books is 35%. So we can see 30% were mysteries, right? 25% were travel books. 35% were children's books. So children's books take up the most shelf space. How do you know? We converted all to percents. We could have changed them all to fractions. We could have changed them all to decimals. But if you're going to compare them, you want them to look the same. All right, last question. A newspaper article reports the results of an election between two candidates. The article says that Smith received 60% of the votes and that Murphy received 1/3 of the votes. A reader writes in to complain the article cannot be accurate. All right, so we have 60% and we have 1/3. Now again, if we are talking about an election, we should have 100% of the votes. Do you agree? All right, so we've got 60% of the votes, right? And we've got 1/3. So what is 1/3 as a percent? Well, remember I mentioned a while back, there's ones you should have memorized. 1/3 is one you should have memorized. You should know it's 33 and 1/3%. If you did not know that, you could take your calculator and go 1 divided by 3. Remember, you could change any fraction into a percent. 1 divided by 3 would be 33.3333333, which is 33 and 1/3%. Okay, so 1/3 is 33 and 1/3%. So if you add 60% to 33 and 1/3%, what do you get? You get 93 and 1/3%, not 100, not 100%. All right, so there are votes missing. Uh-oh, missing votes. This could be a problem. All right, we're missing what? 6 2/3% of the votes. All right, total should always be 100, right? So when you have a total percent should be 100%, right? A total fraction should be 100 over 100, and the total decimal should be 1.0. Those would represent a total of 100%, 100 over 100, or 1.0. Those are when you have one full amount, one whole. All right? Okay, well, I hope after watching all 3 of these videos, you have a better understanding of percents, fractions, and decimals. And of course, if you still need more help, please send me an email or otherwise contact me and let me know. Have a great day, everybody.